forget motivation, get into momentum. I don't think you have to want it bad enough. You just have to be willing to put it in the calendar and do the thing. Because if we do it in a way where it is easier to do it than not to do it, we don't have to want it so badly.
Yeah, it's every little thing that you do adds up to the momentum and the motivation that you're actually looking for. Oh my goodness, Jen Trepic, welcome to the Stop Faking Fine podcast.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh my gosh, I am super excited to share with you listening. We are going to take a deep dive into helping you reclaim your health and learn how to be on the same team as your body. I love that language because Lord knows, as women, we can hate on our bodies and that just sends us into a downward spiral. But Jen, first, let's dive into growing up as the skinny one in a family of dieters. Tell me more about how that felt and what that means to you.
Yeah, so my family probably dislikes that I say that. But so I was a dancer growing up.
Okay.
And really what that meant is I didn't have to be quote unquote on a diet.
Yeah.
Right? I didn't have like weight to lose.
Mm-hmm.
But everybody around me at some point
Yeah.
was in that place. And so that was the food that was available.
Yeah.
Or those were the rules of the house or
Yeah.
whatever it was. So by extension, even before I needed to, I did every diet there was.
Yeah. Which is amazing. So like what were you were in high school. Were you on Weight Watchers? Like what were the fads at that stage of time?
Well, it was, I mean, we did everything. So there were times when there were Jenny Craig meals. So I came home from school and like I would be like, Dad, can I eat your Jenny Craig things that are in the, in the cupboard? And he's like,
I'm hungry.
I guess. Right. He's like, I guess. So all of those, there was one that was like a bunch of supplements called Renew.
Oh,
don't
perfect.
recommend that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
We did the cabbage soup diet.
Oh, I think we've all done the cabbage soup diet. Like that's such a 90s fad.
Right. For sure. There was one that was called 40-30-30 that was really, now we know that as like macros. Yeah. Right. But not everybody's macro breakdown is designed
40-30-30, right?
But that was the plan. And like literally a couple meals, we just ate an entire can of beets. I'm now allergic to beets, which is really funny.
Okay, so tell me, growing up with a family of dieters, never learning, right? Because you didn't learn how to eat properly. You learned how to follow rules.
But like I ate vegetables. I ate healthy, and growing up, I ate when I was hungry. I didn't eat when I wasn't hungry. And so it was sort of like things are quote unquote fine.
Yeah.
Right. So then I started to gain weight between high school and college.
Okay. Were you still dancing or what was the caveat?
So dance stopped.
Okay.
Right. Birth control started.
Oh.
Yeah, we could do a whole deep dive on that.
Right.
And like lifestyle change, right? Like I was used to very long, full days, going to school, extracurriculars, right? Like I was that kid in high school who did all of the things.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you go to like nothing.
Yeah.
And I went to camp in the summer. So it was very different.
And so you, in your words, you say that you grew up in a family of dieters and you didn't need to diet until you did.
Right.
How did you learn, right? Fast forwarding, how to eat properly.
Right. Well, nobody ever teaches us this. I didn't learn it until after college, a million diets later. I was actually looking for something to do outside of my full-time job to eventually just work for myself.
Okay.
I didn't know what it was going to be. And then it was sort of like these two worlds collided between my weight management saga, as I call it, because there was way too much drama to call it a journey. And then this idea of wanting to do something outside of my job, not working for somebody else for the rest of my life.
Right. Well, let's dive into the saga. So it wasn't a journey because you didn't have a healthy relationship with food, because if you're on a diet and you're restricting yourself of certain things, I always bring this up, is that's raising your cortisol hormone. It's raising your stress hormone because you're not enthusiastic or excited about what you're doing. So in college, when you were like, okay, I need to diet, what did you do?
I mean, I did. That was when, so my 21st birthday, I asked for a Weight Watchers membership for my birthday from my parents.
Oh, doesn't every 21-year-old just want that?
Right?
Like,
Like
right?
crazy. But I was doing South Beach, I was doing
Yeah.
Weight Watchers, I was, trying everything.
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 Yeah.
And I remember, so it was every summer in college, like I'd intern in New York, I'd go back to Michigan for
Mhm.
school, and it was this like, I'd be in New York for the summer, I'd have a gym membership, I'd work out every day and
Yeah.
like blow up. Like I would feel like I would breathe and gain weight.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I do not understand.
Right.
And there was one point where I was like, literally, with how much I work out and what I'm eating, like a person would think I would be emaciated.
Yeah.
So, like, this doesn't make sense, you
No,
know?
it doesn't make sense. It's not calories in versus calories out. And I think
Correct.
like one thing that you and I like to nerd out on is the fact that like I've tried every diet under the sun. You see some movie star,
Right.
someone super famous that's like, oh, you're on the South Beach diet and you look amazing. I'm going to go on the South Beach diet. And I like to giggle because I have probably 100 books in my
Oh, yeah.
library of diets that I have literally tried. Like I have a book that says like this is why you're fat. Period. And it's like I mean I read it and I adhered to what they said and there was zero change to what happened with my body.
Right.
So at what point were you like, "Oh my gosh, I am eating according to this diet. I am at the gym. I'm in a calorie deficit according to math, but I'm breathing and so I'm gaining weight."
Right. Right. It was so beyond frustrating. And I just felt like, well, this is what it is.
Yeah.
Right. This is what life is going to look like. It's always going to be this thing. I'm always going to hate getting dressed. I'm always going to hate looking in the mirror or trying to figure out, like, what do I
Yeah.
wear? Why? Also, my biggest pet peeve is like, why I put something on in the morning, it's fine. And then by the end of the day, it looks like it's
You're a
stretched out.
sausage. You're a sausage stuck in it. Stuck in it.
Yeah. Or it's like the clothes are stretched out and it's like,
Yeah.
why do I look like I rolled around all day and like somebody
Yeah.
else looks exactly the same as they
Yeah.
did in the morning when they left their home,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Anyway, it was just so irritating. And then what I learned was the curriculum that I based my practice on.
Mhm.
And that is really about, and like I said to you, like I call it the nutrition education we're all supposed to
Yeah.
know and no one ever taught us. And it's really
Yeah.
about understanding how the body processes food, what
Yep.
different foods do, as you know.
Mhm.
And then it was like, oh my God, I get why the croissant in the kitchen at work has a voice and is calling my name.
Yeah.
And so what I actually need to do is this. And all of a sudden, not all of a sudden, the
Yeah.
voice from the croissant doesn't exist.
Diminishes. It
Yeah.
diminishes
Yeah.
because I mean, the cravings that are in your gut, they're in your gut. They're not in your brain. So when that croissant is talking to you from the break room, it is actually speaking to your gut because your gut has croissant microbes that need to be filled and need to be fueled and are like, "Oh my gosh, Jen, oh my gosh, like give us croissant fuel. We need that croissant." And
Right.
if you can change that makeup with nutrition, with whatever tools you have, you can change those cravings. So when you stopped craving the croissant, what did you do to get to that place?
Well, so it's a combination of factors. So, like, yes, your microbiome is one piece,
Mhm.
right? But there are a number of hormones all at play. And so,
Yeah.
understanding that it is biochemical. It
Mhm.
is not your willpower. It is
Yeah.
not that you suck. There's actually nothing wrong with you. And all of those diets that you've done where you gained the weight back, like you haven't failed. All of
Mhm.
those things failed you.
Mhm. Mhm.
And learning this information, learning all of these pieces shifted those food decisions
Mhm.
from being emotional, thinking I
Yeah.
suck,
Yeah.
to being intellectual. Like, oh, I get why the croissant has a voice. What I really
Yeah.
need is this.
Yeah.
And then, right? And then I could move on with my life. And in all of that, so essentially, this curriculum completely changed my life. Like the only thing that allowed me to say I kicked my food issues. And
Yeah.
so from there, I was like, everyone deserves this information.
Yeah.
And why isn't this what we learned? Being the insatiable student that I am, I went digging. I'm like,
Let's
how
figure it out.
come, right? Well, and how come we learned the things we did? Like, where did all of that come from? And
Yeah.
so, long story short, like, I became a health coach on the side of my full time job.
Mhm.
And feeding this desire to understand it all,
Yeah.
I really dug into not just the nutrition pieces and the biochemistry pieces, but also the behavioral pieces.
Mhm.
And why is it that we do these things? And how, like, let's be real, nobody needs to tell us to eat a cucumber over a Twix. Like,
Right.
duh,
Yeah.
right? But how do we
But
get ourselves to
to
choose the
want that,
cucumber?
how do you
Right,
get yourself to choose the cucumber? And
right.
also, how do you get yourself in a place, and this is like where I really want to dive deep. Like, how do we get ourselves in a place where we are not beating ourselves up? Because you've already mentioned it once, like the croissant's calling your name. You go to eat the croissant. And now you're like, oh my gosh, I'm terrible. I have no willpower. Like, I can't believe I couldn't eat the croissant. I can't believe now I'm sitting at my desk and now I don't feel good. And now you're negatively spiraling downward,
Right.
which we want to reach out to you, give you a huge hug, and say, lean in. Like, let's change the narrative. You're not terrible. It's your gut microbiome, it's your gut brain connection, it is the neurochemical things that are happening in your body to tell your brain that you want that. So when you are coaching women around mindset and how do you make the shift, not only to stop beating yourself up, but stop comparing yourself to Sally in the cubicle next to you that can have 7 croissants and she feels amazing. Like, how do we take back the power for ourselves? And how would you coach us in this moment?
Yeah. So there's a lot here and a lot to unpack.
Yeah.
And where we start is actually what you were talking about. The first place to start is simply some nutritional elements
Mhm.
because the gut brain connection, right,
Mhm.
is so the vagus nerve is the literal connection between the gut and the brain.
Mhm.
Think of it like a 5-lane highway.
Yeah.
Okay. 3 of the lanes go gut to brain.
Yep.
2 lanes go brain to gut.
Yeah.
So you're never going to outthink the chemistry of what we are feeding ourselves.
That's so good because it's your it's your super highway, and you
Right.
either have 5G, the best phone around, or you're dialing in to what's happening.
Right. And then it's a lot easier
Yeah.
to deal with the thought process. It's a lot easier to address the cravings. It's a lot
Mhm.
easier to do some of these things. So what starts out, and maybe this is a place for us to start.
Yeah.
A lot of us think that it's about motivation. What
It's
I'm
not.
missing is motivation. It's
Yeah.
not motivation. Motivation comes after.
Mhm.
So let's back up for a second. Let's say I actually, so I just had this conversation with a client. So we worked together a little over a year ago.
Okay.
She's now 19. When I met her, she was a very picky eater, which is fine. But more
Yeah.
than that, she was like, I really despise working out. I have no desire. I just want to sleep. You know, I'm never going to be a gym person. Like the idea of being a gym person sounds great, but like that's never going to be me.
Yeah.
Okay. Fast forward now, she has evolved. And now, by the way, she is, her rheumatologist has put her in remission.
Yeah.
And she's in the gym all the time, has a trainer. She's now on like this fitness side of her
Yeah.
evolution. And I shared that story because so many of us start where we're like, I really hate working out.
Yeah.
I'm never going to be that person. And if I told her when we started that she could and she might,
Mhm.
and like, she'd be like, you're
No. Hard
certifiable.
pass.
Right.
Yeah. Hard pass.
So, because we think that we're going to be motivated or we have to be motivated at the jump. She was not motivated
Yeah.
to work out. What happened is she started to do some movement while we were working together.
Mhm.
And she noticed that she felt better.
Yeah.
Her joints hurt less. Her energy was better. Her
Yeah.
ADD was better. Her focus was
Mhm.
better. All of these
Mhm.
things improved and were different on the
Yeah.
days when she got her movement in.
Yeah.
So
Preach,
then,
woman.
right.
Preach.
So what happens is the motivation came after
After. Yes.
because she experienced the benefit. So rather, our objective, rather than trying to find motivation, is to
Yeah.
get into momentum.
Yeah.
We want to
Yeah.
get into momentum with whatever the thing is.
Because then the motivation will come. Like
Exactly.
I like to break it down into like very small actionable habits. You're making these small tweaks that are giving you the energy, because then when you go for the walk and if you add sunshine, you're getting dopamine, you're getting serotonin, you're getting norepinephrine, you're getting all of these happy hormones firing in your body, and now you're like, "Oh, who dis? I like the gym."
Right.
Like, which is crazy.
And so to make that happen, right? To get into momentum, to
Mhm.
get into those little things, it's a really annoying word. It's discipline.
Yeah. Well, you have to want
But
it. You have to want it hard enough. You have to want it
see,
bad
I
enough.
disagree. I don't think you have to want it bad enough. You just have to be willing to put
Yeah.
it in the calendar and do the thing. Because
Yeah, well,
if we do it in a way where it is easier to do it than not to do it,
yeah.
we don't have to want it so badly. Right? So if the objective, if right, we're talking in this movement example, what if the walk around your couch for 1 minute?
Right.
Tomorrow, walk around your couch for 2 minutes. If it's scheduled in the calendar and it doesn't take that long, it's easier to do it than to not do it, because not doing it creates that internal dialogue of beating ourselves up. So isn't it actually easier to just walk around the couch for 60 seconds than beat ourselves up for endlessly this whole day?
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
So the first of this is forget motivation, get into momentum with a little bit of discipline. And like you're saying, those super tiny steps where it
Yeah.
becomes a no-brainer to schedule it and do it and check it off the list.
Yeah, it's every little thing that you do adds up to the momentum and the motivation that you're actually looking for. And you don't come out of the gate ready for a gym membership and a trainer. It's
Right.
that's the
Right.
end result. That is a compounding effect of millions of very tiny steps. You walk around the sofa. I like to share, like, if you don't have the energy and you don't want to do it, schedule checking the mailbox.
Yep.
You're gonna look at lunchtime. You're gonna go see, did the mailman come today? You're gonna look again at 2 o'clock. You're gonna go look again after dinner and see what's in there. Walk for a very short amount of time and schedule that into your day.
One of my favorite things, and you're all going to laugh, but let's do some toilet squats. So what
Yeah.
does that mean? Every time you go to the bathroom, after you're done, do
You-
5 squats. Get up and sit down 5 times without your hands.
yeah. I
By
love
the
that.
end of the day, how many squats have you done?
A lot.
Right. Probably at least a few, right?
Yeah.
One of my favorite things also is called 30-30-30.
Okay.
You
Tell
could
me more.
It's 30 repetitions of any 3 exercises. So you could do 30 squats, 30 crunches, 30 push-ups. You could do 30 arm circles, 30 leg circles,
Mhm.
30 side bends, whatever. 30 of 3 different things.
Mhm.
I used to teach this years ago for what to do during like TV commercials, right? But
Yeah.
like not relevant
They
anymore.
they don't
Right.
happen
Yeah.
anymore.
Right. So now this is what I do and what I teach to do in those 2 minutes before your next meeting, the 2 minutes before you have to leave the house, the 2 minutes before the next Zoom. Because we are never as productive than
Yeah.
in the 120 seconds before we have to do something, right? Like we
Right.
look at the clock and we're like, I have 2 minutes, right?
Yeah.
What can I get done in 2 minutes? Do
Yeah.
some movement.
Yeah.
At the end, by the way, I did like a whole bunch of different variations of 30-30-30. You don't get sweaty. You don't have to change your clothes. They all took less than 2 minutes.
Right. You're just moving your body and you're simply creating that habit for
Right.
yourself, which is what's key for attaining your long-term goals.
And what I want everyone to remember, have you heard, by the way, sitting is the new smoking?
Oh, totally.
Right,
And I
okay.
think it's legit because we sit all day long. There's also a
Yeah.
thing called like Zoom fatigue. Like
Right.
this is real.
Exactly. So, and the whole concept is like sitting all day is not human. right?
Right.
We were not designed to do this. And therefore, it is slowly killing us in a way that we didn't
Mhm.
realize, like cigarettes. Okay.
Mhm.
I want you to consider just as unhuman as sitting all day, it is also not human to sit all day and go berserk for an hour.
Yeah.
So it's actually more human to find the toilet squats, to find the 90 seconds, 120 seconds before your next meeting, to
Right.
find lunges, the walking lunges to get to the mailbox, whatever it
Yeah.
is, that's actually much more human movement, a little
Yeah,
bit more
the mi
often.
the micro moments that you can schedule
Exactly.
that into your day. Because the other thing, and I've even experienced this myself about like going hard, like you go for a run or something extreme, and then you come back to sit down and your legs actually cramp up because you needed to have walked for a while or stretched for a while, unwind before you jump into that next movement.
Yeah. And like we've been fed this nonsense about what quote unquote counts
Yeah.
as activity or what counts as movement. And so we tell ourselves it wasn't intense enough, it wasn't long enough, it
Yeah.
wasn't anything enough. And I want you to walk away from this knowing that
It
it is
is.
all
It
enough.
is. It
It
is.
all counts. It all
Yes.
counts. It is all enough.
I mean, I years ago, before I learned about stress and inflammation and cortisol and all of these things, I would like laugh to say, oh my gosh, you're going to go for a walk and count that as a workout. Like, oh my gosh, that's not a workout. Like, you have to be working harder. You have to like be physically like absolutely depleted in order to count it as a workout. And fast forward to me today, I love walking. I think walking is the absolute best workout that you can do. You've got to like
100%.
keep a good pace, but it is good for your body, it's good for your joints, it's good for your mind, and it's good for your metabolism. And you don't need to be killing like you don't need to have the
Right.
mentality of all or nothing. It's something small
Right.
and it's whatever fits into your day.
Yeah. Walking is the single best exercise, especially as we are over 40.
Yeah.
Walking and strength training.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Because going to stress and inflammation,
Mhm.
our body is experiencing the HIIT workout
Yeah.
as a stressor.
Yeah.
So we want to just be careful with some of that intensity. But the other piece to all of this, and this brings us to what I call sort of the bullseye of change or the process of behavior
Mhm.
change.
Yep.
We expect ourselves to like flip a switch
Yeah.
and be different. We expect ourselves to like flip the switch and never eat the croissant again,
Mhm.
or never eat a Twix again, or like flip a switch and love the gym. Like,
Yeah. It's the constant talk about like I'm going to start Monday. Like I'm going to cheat whatever words you want to enter, which I don't agree with, but whatever
agreed.
you're going to do until Monday. And then on Monday, you're building up this stress, this anxiety, this whatever around like, all right, I'm starting my diet today. Like I'm
Well,
I'm flipping the switch and here we go.
it's even the idea that whatever we committed to
Yeah.
before we didn't do, and that makes us the failure,
Yeah.
and we have to start again, rather than seeing all of it as part of
Mhm.
the process,
Yeah.
because it doesn't function like flipping a switch.
Right. It's just
So,
it's talking about like helping yourself. So if you're leaning into this conversation, be empowered to make one small change today that your future self, the woman that you are becoming, will thank you for. It's one small thing and then stacking those habits one after another after another.
yeah, so the process of this, right,
Yeah.
is the bullseye of change. So for all the note takers and people, draw yourself a three ring bullseye or three concentric
Mhm.
circles. Okay. So the outer ring, the outermost ring, the outside of the bullseye are behaviors.
Mhm.
Behaviors that repeat become habits. So now that
Mhm.
habits are the next layer in. The culmination of our habits are our identity. So that's
Mhm.
your bullseye. Identity is your bullseye.
Mhm.
So now we can work with the bullseye of change from the outside in and from the inside out. So let's do each of those as an example. So, and we might have a lot of different bullseyes,
Yeah.
right? So we can go with the gym one first, just to kind of keep going, right? Or finding movement. The behavior might be the Post-it note reminder in the bathroom to do the toilet squats.
Yeah.
The behavior might be scheduling it in our calendar. The behavior might be doing a group class that you have to sign up for and there's a cancellation fee, right?
Yeah.
Over time, those things become habits where maybe we
Yeah.
don't need all the reminders, and those are things that happen, things that we schedule,
Mhm.
that we make sure we have time for. And
Mhm.
over time, that creates the identity of I am an active person,
Yeah.
right? I'm an active person. The alternative could be, let's think about it from the inside out. So let's talk about drinking our water, okay? So the identity we're looking to create is I hydrate, I take care of myself,
Mhm.
right? Well, what are the habits of somebody who does that? Oh, well, they always have,
A
a
water
water
bottle.
bottle.
Yeah.
They think about what you were saying before, what their future self is going to thank them for,
Mhm.
right? They
Mhm.
consider these things. They make sure they go to the bathroom before they leave somewhere,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
And they do
Well,
their 5
those are the
squats or their 10
habits.
squats. They
Right.
get their squats done.
Well, and this is just, so we're focused on this bullseye being our hydration, right? That I take care of myself and I drink my water or I hydrate,
Mhm.
whatever.
Mhm.
Then the behaviors that can get us to those habits is maybe an alarm that goes off every hour to drink some water.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a post-it on the door that says, go to the bathroom and grab your water,
Yeah.
right? The little things, the behaviors that we can do so that the habits and then therefore the identity become inevitable. So
Yeah.
you can work that sort of outside in and inside out.
Mhm. I love it.
Here's the one more element to that. It is fluid. I think of it more like, the old videos of like watching a jellyfish swim where they're like
Yeah.
this? Okay, that's how I think of the bullseye of change, where it's sort of like
Yeah.
in and out.
It's morphing in and out all the time.
Yes. So today, we might be at that identity piece on bringing lunch to work, right? Or
Mhm.
eating our fuel throughout the day. Lunch, we've got it. It's at that identity. Like we have this whole thing around it. It's like not something that we even think about anymore.
Yeah.
And then something happens. Life happens. The day gets busy, or we change jobs. And now all of a sudden, this thing that was at that identity piece requires us to go back and rethink the
Yeah.
behaviors and go back to that outer ring. Even though it was at the bullseye, we're going back out to that outer ring. So for all the people who drew the bullseye, you're going to draw
Yeah.
one more circle around the outside. That outermost ring now is our environment. And
Yeah.
when there are changes to that environment, it means that we're going to rethink some of these things. So we move apart, like we move where we live, we change our job, right?
Mhm.
Kids are at a new school. Kids have different, like it's summer versus the school
Mhm.
year. Okay, the environment changed. We
Yeah.
didn't fail that all of a sudden the workout class we used to go to doesn't work anymore.
Right. You have to find
It
a
means
new.
it means the environment changed.
Yeah.
And so we're going to rethink it. So when we recognize that it is fluid, then we recognize that we're not on or off, good or bad,
Mhm.
black or white.
Yeah. It's not pass or fail. It's
Right.
you. It's
It's
you
part of the
growing.
process of
Yeah.
evolving.
Yeah.
And anything that does or doesn't happen in a day doesn't take away the progress that we've created,
Mhm.
the foundation that we've built.
Mm.
I always say all the time, stop starting over.
Yeah.
Just keep going.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
idea of starting over inherently implies that like
You
nothing before
failed.
this matters.
Right. It inherently implies that not only that you failed, but that raises your internal stress level because now you're also having negative belief in yourself, negative self-talk, negative whatever. And it's like riding a bike. Like when you learn how to ride a bike, you're going to fall. Did you fail? No, you're learning each one of these things, each step, each trip, each whatever. You're learning something about yourself and what you do well and what you need improvement on, and celebrating the things that you're doing well only sets you up for more success in the long term.
Yeah, and the way to make that switch in the brain, we have to understand a few pieces. One is the brain is hardwired for comparison. So this actually
Mhm.
goes back to one of the things you said before of like comparing ourselves,
Mhm.
to
We're all guilty.
somebody else.
Every single human being is guilty of comparing for
It's
something.
physiological, it is chemical, it is how our brains are wired.
Mhm.
It is actually not a choice to compare.
Yeah.
It is the way the brain works. To make that switch, and there's a lot of pieces at play here, but even in thinking about the black, white, on, off, right?
Yep.
Recognizing that it's a process, it's not flipping a switch, and that we are learning this.
Yeah.
So, one of the things that I can hear people, like, as we're saying, find the little things, do the stuff. There's that voice in the back of your mind that says,
Mhm.
yeah, but I
So what do
still
you
have,
say to that
right,
voice?
right.
What do
I
you say
still
to that
have
voice?
50 pounds to lose. I still have
Yeah.
whatever it is. So we have to tell the brain, right? So first is cancel,
Mhm.
right? So we're going to shut off that neural pathway that thinks that thought.
Mhm.
Cancel, and that
Mhm.
neural pathway. And we have to think a new thought. The challenge there is that you have to believe it.
Mhm.
So we can't have it work if the new thought we're telling ourselves is, I work out every day. Because
Yeah.
your brain is going to go to,
No, you don't.
there was that day, right?
Yeah.
So we must replace it with a thought that we fully believe. It's why
Yeah.
affirmations are only sometimes sort of helpful
Yeah.
because they only work if we fully believe them. So phrases like, I'm on my way, I'm learning to, I'm
Mhm.
growing. That's old stuff that's not relevant anymore. Now I'm doing this. Slight tweaks to that new thing we're telling ourselves allows us to actually build a new neural pathway and
Mhm.
move in that direction. So when we have that tendency to be like, ugh, I know you're telling me to just keep going,
Yeah.
but
But you can
yeah,
keep going. One, it's coming back to not having the all or nothing mindset and coming back to saying that it's not black or white. It is literally, for lack of a better term, 50 shades of gray. Like, and
yes,
that's what we're talking about, is the 50 shades of gray. And if you have failed, you didn't go to the gym and now it's the 10th day in a row and you've started a new habit of not going to the gym, walk around your couch, like bring
yes,
it back to
right.
something that you can do and have the time to do.
Right. And so what I'm saying is if your brain has a hard time owning that it is a shade of gray and the shade of gray that you're in is okay. We got to change that conversation to something we do believe,
Yeah.
right? I'm learning that it's not all or nothing. This still counts. I'm going to go do
Mhm.
the walk around the couch.
Mhm.
Okay,
And
well
I
now we
am proud
believe
of, yeah.
that.
And I am proud of myself, like, which is hard for women. It is hard for
Yes.
us. As women, we will give each other accolades all day strong and believe them.
Yeah.
Like, believe them. Jen, you did a great job. I'm so proud of you. Like, you did amazing. And I believe that. But we have such a hard time doing that for ourselves, saying, "Oh
Yes.
my gosh, Dana, you did a great job. You walked slower today than you walked yesterday, but you got out there and you did a great job." Encouraging, taking the time for ourselves to actually have that narrative,
Yeah.
no matter how simple it is, helps you to believe,
Yes.
and it helps you to grow.
And that's part of the process. So, part of the process as we grow and evolve and release the excess weight that the body has been holding on to
Mhm.
is to shift what drives us. For many of us, what drives us in the beginning is our unhappiness.
Mhm.
We don't like the way we look in the mirror. We hate the way our clothes fit. We're uncomfortable. We're not confident. We're not
Yeah.
showing up as our best selves.
Yeah.
And that pushes us to make some of these choices. And I think, now this is my theory, not like real
Mhm.
science, but I believe
Just disclaimer.
Right, because I'm like I nerd out on the science, and
Yeah.
so, like, I feel like I have to tell you, and this is a me theory, not, like,
Yeah.
real research. When we are afraid that we
Mhm.
will not continue, when we think that especially I see it all the time when people have made progress,
Yeah.
right? And you hit that point of, I've gotten to this point before, but every other time at this point is when I gain the weight back, right?
Ooh,
We're
yeah.
not sure we're going to keep going. We don't know how to keep going.
Mhm.
That when we hit that point and we're nervous, we don't know what's next or how to keep going from there. We think, what
Yeah.
motivated me in the beginning? Oh, well, I was really unhappy.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not unhappy anymore. So maybe I'm going to beat myself up into compliance. I'm
Mhm.
going to beat myself up enough that I'll keep going. And so part of the work that we do together is to shift what drives us from the negative to the positive.
Yeah.
And that is a process. And that is not something that we are generally able to do on our own.
Yeah.
It requires ongoing work and some
Yeah.
support, not forever necessarily, right? But some tweaks and some evolution there to start to recognize everything we are doing, to be
Yeah.
motivated by everything we are doing, to be inspired
Yeah,
and
to be inspired by
yes,
everything that you are doing and to
exactly.
congratulate yourself on all of the things that you are doing. I feel like when you get to that same starting line, time after time after time, our minds also play weird games on us, and you end up often self sabotaging because you don't believe that you're actually worthy of the goal that you've set out for the 10th time to get yourself to. So, helping and having outside help, having you to help them get across the finish line, I think is key in keeping your belief in yourself.
Yeah, it's building that belief, building that tool belt so that
Mhm.
like it doesn't like I'm a big fan of therapy, but this doesn't need to be that,
Yeah.
right? Like I work with people for 12 weeks to help you build
Yeah.
the tool belt so that you can go live the rest of your life.
Yeah.
I think a piece of that to remember too is like what works today
Mhm.
might not work tomorrow,
Mhm.
and that's okay. And by the
Yeah.
way, what works right now might not work in an hour. And so the
Yeah.
trick is to have enough tools in the tool belt
Yeah. To
so
know what you're
that
doing and to stay motivated for
and to
yourself.
have another option. Like,
Yes.
okay, that didn't work. Toss it. Like, pull the next thing out, right? Did this work today? Great. Onward next. Okay.
Yeah.
Hit a new thing, need a
Yeah.
different tool, right? We have to have enough tools in the tool belt so that whatever comes our way, we have something we can pull out. And if that doesn't work, we have another one too.
Yeah, I love it. If we come back to you helping women be on the same team as their
Yes.
bodies, like let's unpack that for a minute because when you're not on the same team as your body, I will say this as a fact, your stress is high, your cortisol hormone is high. When you get up in the morning and you look at yourself naked in the mirror and you're like, I'm fat, I'm this, I'm that, you've already you're wrecking your cortisol hormone because that hormone needs for you to have grace and to not be stressed and to kind of come down so that you can turn on your metabolism. So, what encouragement do you have for the woman that's like, I'm not on the same team as my body? I don't know what this body
Right.
is. This body is some alien that's taken over me.
Yeah, it's that fight. It's
Hmm.
like we're trying to control the body and it's like why isn't it doing what I want it to do?
Yeah.
Right? Learning to be on the same team as our bodies happens when we understand biochemically what's happening.
Hmm.
Leptin, ghrelin, cortisol, PYY, GLP-1. There's 8 whatever, it doesn't matter in this moment. There's
Yeah.
8 chemicals that drive whether we overeat or undereat.
Yeah.
It is dopamine, serotonin.
Yes.
It is physiological. When we
Hmm.
understand that everything we experience is the body doing
Hmm.
exactly as it was designed to do it
Yeah.
and communicating with us,
Yeah.
We can learn to speak the same language and be on the same team instead of thinking that a craving is a moral failure, right?
Mhm.
Is something's wrong with me that I'm craving bread and pasta and chips and cookies.
Yes. You're like, "There's nothing wrong with you. It's
No.
your
And
body, and it's sending the
it,
wrong
it's
signals."
not sending the wrong signals. It is sending us exactly the signals that it's supposed to be sending based on what's happening in the body. We have to
Right.
learn the language to
Yes.
decipher what that means so that we can work with the body.
Yes.
So, a lot of times, craving those foods is directly connected to poor or insufficient sleep,
Mhm.
right? Quality or quantity of sleep, insufficient protein, quality and quantity,
Mhm.
and all of that is connected to even the gut bugs that you were talking about before. So, okay, instead of feeling like I have to climb Mount Everest and Mount Everest naked and barefoot in order to not crave a cookie,
Yeah.
rather we go, wait a minute, I just have to start my day with more protein.
Yeah.
And then it feels like a miracle. The craving for the cookie goes away and we're on the same team. We're learning to understand the language of the body. There's only so many signals that it can send us. And so when we start to recognize that it's in communication,
Mhm.
we just have to learn the language because it doesn't speak English, right?
Right. I mean, I love
Then,
that, like, learning the language, like, because even if
right,
you go out for like, if you like, one of the biggest hacks is if you are hungry and you're craving something sweet, you're craving whatever, and you walk to the mailbox in that moment. You're like, "You know what? Instead of picking up this cookie, I'm gonna walk to the mailbox and I'm gonna walk back." That movement lowers your ghrelin, which is actually your hunger hormone, and will help you to not have 7 cookies. Maybe you still have half of
right,
one of the cookies when you get back, but you've helped that neurotransmitter to not be screaming at you that you need the sugar in the moment or you need the cookie in the moment. And it's finding the tools and strategies that work for listening to the signals that your body is telling you. And I say that they're telling you the wrong signals, but it's the wrong signals for the goals that are on
right,
your heart.
right.
And so it's a matter of figuring out, what does this craving mean?
Right. And cravings have a lot of different sources, right? And by that token, too, like we've been told that emotional eating is
Mhm.
the enemy. I'm sorry. I call BS on that too. Like, name me a culture in the world that doesn't include food and some sort of community connection,
Yeah.
support, grief, celebration. Like, there's nothing wrong with food being part of our emotion and connection.
Yeah.
When we turn to the food as a way to not feel
Mhm.
emotions,
Right.
that's right. So there's a tweak in there too, where again, we don't have to beat ourselves up. We just have to recognize.
Yeah.
So if we have those moments where we're having this craving and we check in with our stomach and we're like, literally, I'm not hungry. Like,
Mhm.
one of the best checks that I can give you for that is like, you're craving the cookie and it is the only thing that sounds good. Like, nothing else is going to do it. It's just the cookie. You would not eat an apple or broccoli.
Yeah.
Then we're probably not actually physically hungry.
Yeah.
Because when we're physically hungry, a lot of things sound good,
Yeah.
right? So that's our first clue that we're probably not physically stomach hungry.
Yeah.
So then the question I want you to ask yourselves is, where am I not being fed? Where am I not being fed? What am I looking to feed with the cookie? Am I looking for a break? Am I looking for some quiet? Am
Mhm.
I looking for a minute to myself?
Mhm.
Because again, my theory, not real science, I think, especially when it comes to a work day and things like that, we can justify taking a break to eat.
Yeah.
We have a really hard time justifying and validating a break for the sake of a break.
Yeah, for the mental
Yes, and
for the
especially
mental bandwidth,
right, and like working from home and having things accessible all the time now, there
right?
isn't that separation. And so if we need a break, a lot of times we find ourselves eating because subconsciously that's an acceptable break.
Mhm. Well, often you are short on energy, and so you reach for the sugar-laden things because you need a spike of energy. You're like, I'm running
Right.
on empty. I've got to get through this proposal. I've got to get through whatever that I'm doing. And you reach for the sugar when you could simply walk to the mailbox and it would help you with the energy, the mental break, the movement, or you could go to the bathroom and do your 10 squats, and that would help also with all of those things. I have one more question for you
Yeah.
about why BMI is BS. Like in
Yeah.
10 seconds or less, let's unpack just
Okay,
the
great.
distorted system
Yeah.
that we have in the way that we judge ourselves and others for that matter.
Yeah. So, first of all, health is not a size, full stop,
Right. I like that.
period.
Yeah.
So, BMI, and by the way, it's not just judging ourselves, it's how our medical, quote unquote,
Right.
healthcare system
Judges you.
judges us. So, BMI is based on height and weight.
Mhm.
And a really excellent advanced calendar is going to take your age into account too.
Yeah.
So, you show up at the doctor and they tell you based on BMI, you're obese,
Yeah.
right? Well, here's the thing. Someone could be 5'7" and 170 pounds of muscle, or
Mhm.
someone could be 5'7" and 170 pounds of mostly fat,
Yeah.
right?
And they're getting
Well,
the
they're going to
same
have the same BMI.
Yes.
Their health outcomes, though, will
Right,
be
are very
dramatically
different.
different,
Yes.
right? So, because I'm a nerd and I was like, well, where did this come from? Why
Yeah.
is everybody like, why is our medical system using BMI? Where did this metric even come from at all?
Right.
Right? So I went digging. So it was designed to study populations over time for the purpose of comparison.
Mhm.
So populations, everybody who lives on North America compared
Yeah.
to everybody who lives in Europe,
Yeah.
not Joe versus Jane.
Right.
Okay.
In this clinic.
Populations
Yes.
over time. So over a decade, over a century, right? Everybody who lived on this part of the earth compared to everybody who lived on that part of the earth,
Mhm.
right? Designed to compare populations over time. And in fact, in its discovery as a tool for comparison, the scientists who created it said explicitly this is not designed to be a measure of individual evaluation.
Yeah, but yet we use it today.
So why? Right? So our medical system adopted it to make it easier for our health professionals to have conversations with their patients.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's very
I
interesting.
yeah, I have a major problem
Yeah.
with a system that says instead of teaching health professionals how to have conversations,
Yeah.
instead of teaching quote unquote health professionals about nutrition,
Yeah. Well,
we're just going to
that's a
give them
podcast for a
right,
whole
right.
nother day.
Exactly. But we're going to give them a tool
Yeah.
that's actually a really inaccurate measurement so that it's easier for them.
Yeah. I bring that up. I have a very good friend that came home from her physical a couple of weeks ago and she was like, "Oh my gosh, I guess I'm
Oh,
obese." And I was like, "You're so not like you're the opposite of what obese would be." And I just thought it was really interesting. And then as I got to know you, I was like, "Oh my gosh, one of
right.
your taglines is your BMI is BS." And
Yes.
I think that it's just worth acknowledging and understanding because it's a trap that you can leave the doctor's office and then feel bad about yourself. And
Yes.
I
And
have a problem
along
with
those
that.
same a big problem. And along those same lines, we don't want to like when I work with my clients, if we take one measurement, we take all measurements,
Yeah.
right? We never look at one thing in isolation. And I
Yeah.
actually recommend that you do the same thing with your blood work and the information from your doctor.
Yeah.
We don't want to look at just LDL. We don't
Right.
want to look at just fasting glucose. We don't want to look at just our BMI. We want to
Mhm.
look at all of the numbers together to get a
Mhm.
complete picture because
Mhm.
any number in isolation is likely to mislead us. It
Right.
doesn't give us the full picture of what's happening.
Yes, there's never one thing that is going to lead you to the answer. It is a combination of all of the things. Oh my gosh, Jen, we could talk
Yeah.
for hours. This
Forever.
conversation has been so fascinating and so amazing. Thank you so much for being here. So for the woman listening that's like, oh my gosh, Jen, like I would love to work with you. How can we find you? How can we work with you? Give us the deets.
Well, thank you for having me. I know we could literally chat forever. Easiest way to find me is social media or my website. All social media, I am at Jen Trepic, JennTrepeck. Website is a salad with a side of fries.com. And I think you have a link for all of your listeners to get a
Yeah.
complimentary curiosity call. Let's have a chat. Let's see how you're feeling, what's going on for you. If I'm a fit, if you need a referral to somebody else, we'll get you on a path of good things to happen. And wherever you're listening, my podcast is called Salad with a Side of Fries. So join us over there too.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for being here. All of the links will be in the show notes below. This has just been a great conversation. So thanks again for being here.
Dana, thank you so much.